Hi, I recently did a homework video for Paul McClure's Raspberry Pi Pico W class, and um, the homework was to debounce a interrupt-driven button. So I was successful in that, and this video here shows how I did it. And I mentioned in that video that I might want to turn it into a library module so that you could uh, access it with just the do all the debouncing in the background. Um, so I was successful at that. But let's get to where I started at with the code that we had. So this is my code from the last video. It just basically this is setting up an interrupt, and we're debouncing it. And um, I'd like to go through the thought processes of what I was thinking in making this library module. So the first thing is that only thing that we're actually doing after we press the button and debounce it is these three lines here. Of course, we creating a global variable there, but these three lines here are all we're doing. So in our handler or callback from my library, it's still going to have a handler on it. Is it's only thing you'll need to do is put the what you're actually doing. All of the I wanted to be able to hide all the debouncing features in the library. Um, the second thing I wanted to do is with this way, you have to set up your pin first. So I wanted to skip that step and allow the pin to be set up in, just give it a pin number and it'll set up the pin in the library module. Um, and the third thing, we set this one up as being, we're uh, doing the IRQ rising, and we're setting our pin as a pull down. I wanted to be able to have, sometimes you might have your where you want your switch to be a pull up instead of a pull down. So I wanted to allow for that choice in the library module. So I got to, like I say, I was successful. Instead of going over the library module first, I'd like to go through the where I got it set up using it. So the library module file is called db underscore IRQ, and the class is called db capital DB underscore IRQ. So of course, once I got my file, I had to put it in the lib folder on the Pico to make it so it would find it. So that's that. And, I do have to say that even though we're using an LED, so we had to bring in machine and pin here first, because I wanted to be consistent with the regular IRQs, and it uses pin.IRQ rising and pin.IRQ falling like we did on a regular IRQ, that it does, these are constants that under in the pin class are constants. And if you don't want a LED and you don't need to use that, you still have to import pin because you're using these constants in there. I thought about doing it a different way so I wouldn't have to do that, but I wanted it to be as similar to the IRQ library as we could have it. So anyhow, that's what we're basically doing. So the thing is you notice I'm not setting up any pins in here, or I'm not setting up the button pins. I do set up the pin for the LED out. So I'm using the onboard LED to do that. But I'm setting up, of course, with a class and doing the library module, you can set up as many um, uh, of these objects, DBIRQ objects, as you have pins, I guess. So I don't think there's a limit on which pins are IRQ on the Pico. But anyhow, so I'm setting up two of them here. And again, like I said, they're pretty consistent. The first the first is the pin number, because we're creating a pin object in our in the library module. And then these two are what we did on the regular IRQ. You're triggering and what you're handling function is going to be. And then this is where you can adjust your debounce length of time on it. And I set it to equal to 50 milliseconds here, but I also had debounce milliseconds with a default value of 50 in my init function. So you can actually, if you're not interested in doing anything besides 50, as you can see in this green button one here, it doesn't even put the debounce, and it's just going to use the default of 50. This one going to work the same if I left this in or took it out. And as I said, you can see I have one pin lined up. The red button is lined up with the pin is going to the other side of the button is going to 5 volts. So when you press the button, you're going to be getting a rising value, and you're setting it to pull down your resistor, your onboard resistor to pull down. And this one, you're doing the falling. So that button, the green button, is tied to the other side of the pin is tied to ground. So the initial state, and then you're using a pull up, input pull up for that one. So you're going to be able to, it's going to be high, and then it's going to go to low. So you're triggering when you push the button, it's going to go low. So then you're going to do that. So all that's taken care of. So let me, so as you can see from my callbacks or handler things here, one's RB for red button and one's GB for green button. So my green button got the count, bringing that in as a global, and we're incrementing it. And I'm just putting toggle on there, but we're also toggling the onboard LED with this one. And then for the red button, we're just doing the global and increasing the count, and all we're doing is printing something out. We're not doing anything physically with any of the pins, but certainly you could, but I just didn't do it. So let's get this running, so this video stays a little bit on the short side. So let's just go ahead and run. Like I said, all I do is a pass here, and so probably ought to put something to say, okay, program's running, but I didn't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and press the green button. And like I said, the green button is the toggling. I'm not showing the toggle, but you can see this toggling. This is just like my other program. And it doesn't matter where you wait a while or do them fast or whatever. I'm doing it fast push. Press, 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 wait, 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 press, wait, press, wait. Press, 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 wait, press. So it's all working. And then, like I said, there's only one extra line of code. The red button is going to call just this thing here, and it's just going to push that. So, and you say, like I said, you got a separate counter on here, so it's going to start at 1, 2, and you can do them in between, and you can see that it's working fine. So I think I'm going to like this as a way of handling buttons. I'm going to probably use this quite a bit. Like I said, you only need your one line of code to define it, and then your callback. And like I say, you put if you want something besides the 50 milliseconds, you put that in, or you can just leave it out. And you don't have to define your pin as an output or anything like that, and it automatically figures out what you want to do with it. So that's showing it working, but I imagine some people might be interested in the code. So and it ended up being fairly simple code as well. We just have, we're just pin and timer because we're using a timer in it. You noticed on our main program, don't have to worry about the timer because we're only using that in our library module. So I got the class, like I said, the file is lowercase db and the class is uppercase db. Seems to be sort of a way of that other people have done this. I'm not sure if it's the normal way or not. So, like I said, we're bringing in, of course, you have yourself when you're in init, you got yourself, and we got our pin that we showed, and the trigger and the handler. And then this is the debounce milliseconds. And like I say, I give it a default value of 50. So if you don't include that in your code, it's automatically going to put a 50 in there for you. And then you have to decide whether depends on whether you want to pull up or pull down resistor once you create your pin object. So if it's IRQ rising, then you know you want to pull down on your pin. And if it's an IRQ falling, you know you want to pull up on your pin. In the same way, in my first code, you can we check the state to make sure that what you're reacting, you're going to call your handler only if it's in the proper state, because you could get the bouncing on either the press or the release of the button. So you want to be able to react on the proper one if you so you don't react on the other one. So I just check state, and like I say, it's going to be a 1. We're going to after we do our debounce delay or timer, we're going to check that that we are in the high state. If we're in the high state, that means that we were pressed. If we have it in this situation here, and you get a debounce interrupt on the release of the button, after the debounce delay, you're going to have it's going to be 0 because you released it, and it's going to be 0. So these are just what you need for that. And then once we got that figured out, then we're just going to create our regular IRQ, and it's we're, like I say, we're creating our pin, so we're just calling it self.pin IRQ. And the trigger, we're just bringing in the trigger from there. It'll either be IRQ rising or IRQ falling. And then our handler is, we are going to use an internal function to handle this. So we are I do this double underscore to make it as the convention to use internal function. It's not accessed from the outside. Actually, there is no functions in this class that are going to be accessed from the outside other than when you initialize your variable. So we got 2 double underscore methods, I guess, in the class, are methods. Then we're going to the debounce milliseconds. We're going to bring that in, and I just renamed it dBms. And then the handler is the handler that we brought in. So like I said, we're not using, in a normal IRQ, you put your handler here, but I'm using a internal handler here. And we need to be able to use this later on when we do that. So we're doing a self.handler. That way, if you got multiple interrupt things like we got in the code I showed, and you got self dot, one's going to be green button, the other one's going to be red button. So handler. And then also, like I said, I wanted to not initialize, but I wanted to create a timer object for each of these timers so that use them. So it's self.t. So same way there, you got one for each instance. You're going to have a timer open. So anyhow, so let's go to when a interrupt fires, is going to go to this underscore handle. And basically all we're doing here is like I did in my first code from last video. Soon as the IRQ fires, we're going to set the handler to none. That way it won't react to any more um, uh, um, interrupts until we turn this back, until we put this back to the one that we want, which is back to this handle one. So you're going to get more interrupts along here, but it's just going to not do anything when it comes in. So that's what we're doing there. And then what we're doing is we're setting a timer, a one-shot timer, and we're setting the period for the dB milliseconds. So it's either 50 or whatever you decide to use. And then the callback on this, again, it's an internal callback, and we're calling it the __ T for timer handle. So this is going to be what happens when you handle the timer. And this is where you basically you check to see if the pin value is equal to, you read the pin value and see if it's equal to this check state that we got up here. So that checks if you're on the proper side of the, if it's a press or a release, you want it to be only do this on a press, not the release. And like I say, this check state can be 0 or 1 depending on whether you have a pull up or pull down resistor and falling or rising. So then that's when you do this send it off to do the handler that you have in your main code. And this is how you do it. You have self.handler, and that is actually, you're bringing in just the handler that you, without the parentheses that you used here, and you're just renaming it. It's still it's still the function name is what you're bringing in. I probably should have called this function name or something like that. And you can, it would be function name, and then you are actually, this function will be executed. So it's going to go back to your main code and execute whatever function you have up there. And then when it's done, it'll, like I said, you don't want any delays or loops or anything in your main code on that. And then it's going to come back, and then it's going to set the pin IRQ to start catching interrupts again. And then it'll start looking for interrupts again. And basically that's all there is to the code. And like I said, you could create as many button pins with just one line of code and send it off to a function to act on what the button press is supposed to do. Like I said, you might want to just set a flag in your handler just so that you can check it later in your main code. But that's just the way things are going there. And I think it's kind of cool. Like I said, you just one line of code and your one function to your handler function, and for each one that you want to make, you don't have to declare the pins. You don't have to do anything like that up there. Anyhow, that's my video. Probably got a little longer than I wanted it to be. Thanks, Paul, for getting us started on this, and we're trying to take it to the next level. Thanks for everybody for watching. Have a great day.